In today's video, CNN publishes another poll showing the massive support for President Trump. Also, Congressman Lisa Murkowski makes a shocking statement, and the Fed, Jerome Powell, is now on the hot seat. Trump is calling for his termination.
Deport all undocumented immigrants. Voters favoring the government trying to deport all 11 million of them. Back in 2016, just 38% of voters wanted the government to try to deport all 11 million undocumented immigrants. Compared to where we are in 2025, 56%, the majority. The American people have come a long way on this issue, much closer to Donald Trump, and I think that's a big part of the reason why Americans are increasingly saying the country is on the right track when it comes to immigration policy, and why Donald Trump's net approval rating on that issue is in the positive, very much unlike his first term.
Now, this poll is damaging for Democrats, and I'll explain why in two main reasons. Number one, look at the language of the poll. How many people agree with deporting criminal undocumented immigrants? No, that's not what he asked. How many people agree with deporting all undocumented immigrants? 56%. Point number two on why this is damaging is this is CNN reporting this information. At this point, the American people probably feel that Democrats are more likely to defend illegals and criminals than they are American citizens. And yes, we have an example of that because a stupid debate between Scott Jennings and Congressman Garcia took place yesterday. And it just shows you how the congressman is proving my exact point.
This just confirms what we have believed about the Democratic Party and why it currently has a 21% approval rating in Congress. Look where the energy in the Democratic Party is. It's around retrieving illegal aliens from El Salvador. It's around fighting for these college campuses that have been rife with anti-Semitism. It's around biological males who want to play in girls' sports. This is why they are losing to Donald Trump every day, because the energy that Democrats feel comes on all these issues that are fundamentally not where the American people are.
Congressman, one second. Congressman, can I give you the chance to respond to that?
Donald Trump. Yeah, I mean, it's Donald Trump that's actually losing the support of the American people. Donald Trump's not focused on lowering the costs of housing, not focused on lowering the price of goods. He's out there deporting people that have legal status to be here, revoking student visas from students that are contributing to this country.
He doesn't have legal status to be here, Congressman. He has a deportation order. You're going to go to El Salvador. You're going to go to El Salvador. Maybe go to the grocery store. Like, there's an issue here where you could possibly win on, but you're going to El Salvador instead.
And certainly, someone shouldn't be deported and being left in a prison in a foreign country when the Supreme Court says it should be returned back. And so those are the questions. And by the way, as Democrats and as a Congress and a government, we should be able to do multiple things at the same time. We should be able to take on billionaires who are raiding the government. We should be able to take on Elon Musk, who has no business being in charge of Doge. And yes, protecting the civil rights and human rights of people that are in this country and entrusted to us. And so, yes, Scott, we can do all of those things. And it's Donald Trump who actually defined the Supreme Court and whose numbers are going down.
Yeah, so he's right. Congress should be able to do all those things. But he left one thing out that I would find to be probably the most important, that is protect actual American citizens like Lincoln Riley or Rachel Morin as an example. That's how disconnected Democrats are.
Can I ask the congressman one question? Do you believe that Garcia should come back to the United States and be allowed to live here indefinitely?
I think that Garcia is allowed to due process. That's what I believe.
Do you think he should be able to stay in the United States indefinitely, or would you support him being sent to another country?
What I would support is for him to be able to have due process in this country, which he's being denied of right now.
Well, last time I checked, due process for Democrats mean illegals get to stay in this country indefinitely. That's what that means. And that's not my opinion. That's what the results show. We know what Joe Biden did, and we know that every single Democrat went along with it, even though they knew how much of a burden it was financially and clearly when it comes to crime on these cities. That's why you saw Mayor Eric Adams continue to speak out against this nonsense yesterday on CNN. Now, last night, Michael Singleton doubled down on this point that, yes, illegal migrants are owed due process, but don't get it twisted. If they are criminals, especially when they're part of a foreign terrorist organization, they're gone.
I think it is a political issue. I also think it's a national security issue. Prince George's County in 2019, their gang unit determined that Garcia was an MS-13 gang member. His wife in 2021, the wife that's now giving lengthy testimonies about how great he is, said that he's a serial abuser, and she has a ton of photos to showcase said abuse. I agree, due process is absolutely important. We want to maintain that, but I think there's absolutely enough here to send this guy somewhere else. One, he's already broken the law. We've already established that. Now you do have evidence suggesting that he was a member or is a member of MS-13. He's also a serial abuser. This is not the type of individual I don't think any one of us would want in our country. He should be deported.
See, this is why you can't hate the media enough, because this story was ignored by one side of the political spectrum, which takes me to what you see here on the screen. This is Ground News. If you guys want to check this out for yourself, you can go to ground.news/Devori. Now, when we're looking at this story, Ground News is going to show us how all the media outlets on the left have nothing to say about this. It's only media outlets on the right that are actually reporting on this. That's why we love it, because it shows you what both sides are saying. For an example, you've got the Daily Caller reporting on it, the Federalist, the Western Journal, Fox News, of course, and other sources as well. But when it comes to articles that are on the left, there are none. In fact, the only article that actually showed up on the left was from Morning Joe, where Mika Brzezinski is actually saying that Trump is lying about what's going on here. And that's why Ground News is very powerful, because it's called blind spot. That's what I just showed you, where a story is only being covered by one side of the political spectrum. And that's why it's so important to use a tool like this to help you do your own research, which is why we use Ground News. So if you want to use this tool for yourself, all you have to do is go to ground.news/Devori, or you could download the mobile app. Just use promo code Devori, and it's going to give you access to everything that I showed you in this video, including 40% off the Vantage plan.
Respectfully, sir, Michael, we can't make it about Kilmar. Like, that's just one person.
But that's the case we're talking about.
That is, but I guess if we look at the macro and not the micro, and just look at the process of this, because he's not the only person there. There were they indiscriminately rounded up people and deported them. We also saw in the news this week, maybe it was last week, it's been a long year this week, but the Massachusetts attorney who got the letter saying that you have 7 days to leave the country. This administration has already proven that there are flaws in the system, and they are randomly deporting people without due process. That's not specific to him. That should be specific to all of us.
Yeah, so there could be errors in the system. There could be mistakes that are being made. But if she's talking about the macro, there's nothing to even debate on this issue. We just showed you the poll. I mean, the bottom line is, what do Americans think about what's going on here? Well, let's take a look.
Take a look here. This is on immigration. What track are we on? The right track or the wrong track? Look in December. Look at the percentage who said we were on the wrong track. 62% of Americans when Joe Biden was in office, compared to just 14% who said that we were on the right track. Flash forward to April. Well, hello. 45% say we're on the right track, compared to 42% who say we're on the wrong track. So in a big switcheroo from where we were back in January, the plurality of Americans say that the country is on the right track when it comes to immigration policy. Back in December, when Joe Biden was president, the vast majority said that we were on the wrong track. Again, this points out that on the whole, Americans like where we're going on immigration policy under Donald Trump, which is very different from where we were under Joe Biden.
Yeah, in regards to her saying that we should be focusing on the macro when it comes to this issue, well, according to that poll, that pretty much debunks whatever she was saying. Now, I think this next clip will be entertaining for you, because here is Mika on Morning Joe, and she's just losing it. I mean, just look at her. She cannot understand why this is happening. And she claims that we're still making it up, that Mr. Garcia is not a criminal.
Trump TV will tell you that, oh, the lefties on MSNBC, the Democrats, they don't want gang members to be thrown out of this country. Listen to them. That is not what we're saying. Just FYI, everybody wants criminals and gang members to be put into jail or put in a situation where they can't hurt people again. We're all with you there. You can't say that, because you're lying when you do. What we are saying is that people deserve the process that is due to them, whether they are illegal immigrants or American citizens. And none of these people received any of that. And many of these people are being defamed by Trump TV, defamed by the president, defamed by Pam Bondi, defamed and being labeled things that they may not be. And in the case of Abrego Garcia, they're taking a baseball hat, and saying he's a terrorist because he's wearing a baseball hat. Who's crazy?
Yeah, so what she does not seem to understand is that everybody knows that every single illegal alien is not an MS-13 gang member or a terrorist. But every single illegal alien in the eyes of the law and according to the U.S. Constitution, is a criminal because they crossed the border illegally. Now, we know they were encouraged to do so by the one and only Joe Biden. And that's why President Trump has to be aggressive here. And that's why the American people, like you saw in both of those polls, overwhelmingly support what he is doing. So no, Mika, we're not making it up. What we're asking President Trump to do, and that is for all presidents really, is to protect our borders and American citizens. Now, in this next story, which I find to be laughable, really, you have Lisa Murkowski, Congresswoman, who's claiming she is scared of President Trump. And Adam Kinzinger is calling for people to go to the streets and protest the president. Take a look.
What are you going to have to say to people who are afraid or who represent people who are afraid? We are all afraid. Okay? That's what I'm stating. But we are, we're in a time and a place where I don't know. I certainly have not. I have not been here before. And I'll tell you, I'm oftentimes very anxious myself about using my voice because retaliation is real, and that's not right. But that's what you've asked me to do. And so I'm going to use my voice to the best of my ability. And sometimes it will be viewed in a way that, well, that's pretty confrontational.
Yeah, I think the question that should be answered is, what is the difference between retaliation and accountability? Now, the average American would agree with what I'm about to say. For far too long, DC has done nothing for people like you and me. Nothing. What they have done is invested into their own future. That's why when they go there, they become rich. So I don't really have any sympathy or pity for someone like Lisa Murkowski. And before I go any further, here is Adam Kinzinger calling for people to protest the president.
Listen, we are in unbelievably uncharted territory here. And, we're approaching the point where honestly, it's like we're all going to have to take to the streets or something because, growing up, it was always about, you always hear these stories about, the people back in the day that, were willing to stand up to tyranny and you realize now, like, it was hard to do that. And why was it hard to do that? Because everybody had lives, right? Everybody had things going on. And the people that everybody is expecting to step up, like in this case, we keep waiting for congressmen or senators or whatever to speak up, and they're not doing it.
Well, listen, Adam, the reason why they're not doing it is because they could be primaried. And the reason why that is, and that actually addresses the fear from Lisa Murkowski, is because this is the will of the people. Majority of America agrees with what President Trump is doing. We've seen poll after poll after poll proving that. So for him to come out and say that we need to go to the streets is falling into the trap of what we see what's happening on the left. If you continue to speak that way, you're going to have people take that literally, which means they're going to get violent. And here's an example of that posted by Data Republican on X. She screenshotted this individual who claims to be a PhD student in economics at George Mason University. And the individual by the name of Nicholas goes on to say this: the ultimate source of political power is and always will be violence. If the present administration should continue on its course, there's no choice but war. I say this out of sorrow. When must we kill them? This is an individual that is getting a PhD at a university. Why would they go on social media and speak this way? All right, so now we go to our next story. This is from President Trump yesterday. This is in regards to the Fed Chair Jerome Powell. He wants him out of here. Here's what he said. The ECB is expected to cut interest rates for the 7th time, and yet too late. Jerome Powell of the Fed, who is always too late and wrong, yesterday issued a report which was another and typical complete mess. Oil prices are down. Groceries, even eggs, are down, and the U.S. is getting rich on tariffs. Too late should have lowered interest rates like the ECB long ago, but he should certainly lower them now. Powell's termination cannot come fast enough. And that is the line that got everybody's attention. Now, in case you don't understand why President Trump is saying this, it's really for two main reasons. Number one, if the Fed does not cut rates, the interest rates, when we're talking about credit card payments and mortgage interest rates, yeah, that's going to keep going up. And that's a problem, obviously, because people are barely buying houses now. Secondly, if he doesn't do it, how is the federal government going to refinance the interest payments on the debt? I mean, that is a huge issue. Now, here's President Trump doubling down on trying to get Jerome Powell out of there.
On Jerome Powell, you said that the termination of Jerome Powell cannot come fast enough. He says he won't leave, even if you ask him to.
Oh, he'll leave. If I ask him to, he'll be out of there. But I don't think he's doing the job. He's too late, always too late, a little slow, and I'm not happy with him. I let him know it, and if I want him out, he'll be out of there real fast, believe me.
Now, Democrats and the media were quick to react to this, and it's filled with hypocrisy, which we will show you. First, let's watch what Hakeem Jeffries had to say.
Now, a lot of economists are warning that we are heading for a recession. I just heard you mention that. You blame the president, but given those warnings, regardless, is the president right that the Fed should lower interest rates?
Monetary policy in this country, and then we have fiscal policy. And the Federal Reserve has been set up to manage monetary policy in a manner that meets the needs of the American people and meets the moment. And Chairman Powell, who is a Republican, is someone who should be left to do independently what the Federal Reserve has been set up to do.
Now, thankful for the internet, we can always go pull up clips where we see Democrats actually saying the opposite of what you hear them saying today. So although Hakeem Jeffries says, hey, Jerome Powell needs to operate independently, he should do what he thinks is best, and nobody should be bothering him or calling for him to be terminated. Well, why didn't he tell his colleague that, Elizabeth Warren, when she went on CNN last year and said this?
Because Jay Powell raised interest rates so fast, it actually has increased costs for families. Look particularly at home mortgages. So that now we've seen home mortgages just explode in terms of the rates, and that increases the cost of housing for families all across this country. I want to see costs come down for families, and the best way we can make that happen is for Jay Powell and the Fed now to start lowering those interest rates.
Well, wait a minute. I thought it was President Trump's fault on why interest rates are so high and why we're heading into a recession. Now, here in that clip, you heard Elizabeth Warren say, no, it's actually due to Jerome Powell and the Fed raising interest rates too quickly and calling on him to lower them. But again, it's okay when Democrats do it, but when President Trump does it, the world's going to end, right? Now, this brings us to the overall question of this video. What is your reaction to really mainstream media ignoring the facts as it pertains to Mr. Garcia? Now that everything has come to light about who he really is, isn't it interesting that they claim to tell the truth, but only the truth that they think actually matters? And most of the time, that's not even the truth. It's actually false. Let me know what you guys think about all that in the comment section below. Now, speaking about being brutally wrong, yesterday, Senator Van Hollen actually flew down to El Salvador to get a meeting with the president. Well, let's just say he was brutally rejected. If you missed out on that story and more from yesterday, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.